Yeh-Shen by Gina Sabella, illustrated by Jill Dubin. Essential question: what can you learn from reading a fairy tale? Vocabulary in context. These words will be highlighted in yellow throughout the story. Task. My grandfather gave me a task to do. I helped him decorate for the party. Glimmering. The divers saw something flash in the water. It was a group of glimmering fish. Served. I think pizza tastes best when it is served fresh and hot right out of the oven. Content. The girls were content to play outside. It was fine with them not to watch TV. Worn. The teddy bear looks worn. It must be very old. Overjoyed. The children were overjoyed to see each other. They smiled and laughed. Concealed. A small doll is concealed inside the larger doll. Valuable. The ring is valuable to my mother. She has had it for many years. Read and comprehend. Target skill. Sequence of events. An author of a story often tells story events in the order that they happen. The order in which events happen is called the sequence of events. Thinking about the story events can help you understand the author's message or what you can learn from the story. Put events in order in a chart like this one. First, next, last. Target strategy. Analyze, evaluate. To analyze as you read, think about the author's words and story events. Then evaluate or decide how the words and events help you know what is important in the story. Preview the topic. Traditional stories. People have been telling traditional stories for many years. One kind of traditional story is a fairy tale. Fairy tales tell about events that could not happen in real life. The story often teaches a lesson. Fairy tales usually have a happy ending. You will read a fairy tale about a young girl in Yeshen. Genre. A fairy tale is a make-believe story that has been told for many years. Look for characters who would not exist in real life. A happy ending. Meet the illustrator, Jill Dubin. Jill Dubin always loved art. Even as a child, she and her sister used to spend hours making dolls out of paper. Miss Dubin used paper to make the pictures for Yeshen. First, she sketched each picture. Next, she picked pieces of paper with different colors and patterns. She cut out pieces of the paper and placed them onto the sketches. The backgrounds and the characters' clothes are all different pieces of paper glued together. Yeh-Shen was a girl who grew up in China a long, long time ago. Her mother and father had died, so she lived with her mean stepmother, Jin, and her stepsister, Junli. They lived in a cave. Every time Jin looked at Yeshen, she became angry. Yeshen was gentler and kinder than Jin's own daughter, Junli. Yeshen was also a hard worker. Junli was spoiled and lazy. Jin gave Yeshen only rags to wear. She gave her long list of chores to do. When Yeshen finished one task, Jin added 3 more to the list. Yeshen was always busy working. She did not have a chance to make many friends, but she did have one very special friend. This friend had golden eyes, glimmering scales, and a big, beautiful tail. It was a fish that lived in the pond. Every day, Yeshen stopped by the pond and shared some crumbs with the fish. Every day, the fish popped up to greet its friend. Yeshen's stepmother saw this and became furious. She didn't want Yeshen to have any friends, not even a fish. One day, Jin caught the fish and cooked it for dinner. Yeshen cried when she saw her friend served for dinner. She ran out of the cave and sat by the pond. "What's the matter?" an old man asked her. Yeshen told him about her friend, the fish. Then she told him what her stepmother had done. "Listen carefully to me," the old man said. "The bones of that fish hold special powers. Take the bones and bury them in 4 pots. Put 1 pot at each corner of your bed. Whenever you need help, tell the bones what you need. They will make your every wish come true." Yeshen followed the old man's directions. When she got back to the cave, she buried the bones in 4 pots. Then she put the pots by the corners of her bed. She did not have anything to ask for yet, but she felt content knowing that her friend was close by. A few weeks later, the spring festival arrived. At the festival, young men and women could meet. They hoped to fall in love and marry. Jin didn't want to ruin Junli's chances of finding a husband, so she ordered Yeshen to stay home and clean. Then she and Junli went to the festival. Analyze the text. Compare and contrast. Does the stepmother treat Junli and Yeshen in the same way? Explain your answer using text evidence. Yeshen did not want to stay home and clean. For the first time since she buried the The bones, she had a wish. I wish I had beautiful clothes, she said to the bones. I wish I could go to the festival. I wish I could be like all the other girls. As soon as Yeh-Shen said the words, something amazing happened. She was covered in the finest clothes from head to toe. Her old, worn shoes were replaced by a pair of slippers made from silk. Yeshen was overjoyed and grateful for the gifts from her friend. She ran off happily to the festival. Everyone at the festival stopped to stare at Yeshen when she walked in. Who was this beautiful girl in the magnificent clothes? Yeshen had a wonderful time at the festival, but she was worried that her stepmother would notice her. She decided to hurry home, but she ran so fast that one of her silk slippers fell off. It lay in the middle of the road. It was the only sign that Yeshen had visited the festival. At home, Yeshen stuffed her new clothes into the pots. She concealed her one silk slipper, too. She changed into her rags and waited for her stepmother to return. Meanwhile, a traveler found the silk slipper on the road. He knew it was valuable, so he gave it to the king. The king was curious to find the owner of the slipper, so he had his men build a hut. Anyone could come to this hut to try on the silk slipper. Yeshen heard about the hut. She wanted her slipper back, so she sneaked out of the cave one night and ran quietly to the hut. As she crept toward the slipper, the king's men grabbed her. The king took one look at Yeshen's rags and thought she was a thief. Yeshen looked up at the king. Her eyes were filled with tears. The king saw how gentle and kind she was. He listened to her words. Please, I will show you the other slipper, Yeshen whispered to the king. Yeshen led the king to her home. She put on the matching silk slipper and her fine clothes. The king knew then that he wanted to marry her. However, he was angry at how Jin and Jun Li had treated Yeshen. He told them never to come to his castle, so they stayed in their cave for the rest of their lives. Analyze the text. Sequence of events. What happened first, next, and last to Yeshen? What lessons can you learn from these events? This is the end of the story. Goodbye.